Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the Artificery Cast coming to you earlier than normal. Here with me today is XeroHour
Yo.
and FlaccidBaron.
Hey everyone, what's up?
Friday, we got the next set announcement. We were all hyped about that, but we were all wondering, where's the rules updates, guys? Like, we're still waiting for that. And lo and behold, Monday rolls around, and we got it, guys. We made it.
Yay.
Rules have been updated and they are effective immediately. So that's a first. So all of this is going to go into effect for this weekend's regionals and any events. And there are some pretty spicy changes in here. Wouldn't you all agree?
Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff.
a lot of much needed things too.
All right. So you think we should cover the big one that everyone's been buzzing around first?
Oh yeah,
Might as well get it out of the way.
Yep, it happened. Snoke got a value adjustment by 1 point. He's balanced, quote unquote balanced.
definitely needed. I mean, if they could somehow give like two to his, like two and then plus one, if that makes sense. Like so, a 13, 14, I think that would have been better. Just because now, even at 12, I mean, you're just gonna run them in like three wides with one die, and it's still gonna be slightly oppressive.
I mean, I feel like it won't be as oppressive because part of the strength of those three white decks was that Snoke just had really good dice at Elite.
Right?
Like
Yeah. I mean,
losing,
his die is amazing.
yeah, like losing out on like his Elite die will hurt because you're losing out on his like strong focus ability to get you what you need to.
So you lose so much focus, and I think losing a Snoke die really hurts. And I've played a lot of like one die Snoke trying those three wides even before this, and they're fine, but it's having both of them that really just pushes him over the edge, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Of course, a lot of the Dark Horse deck that we've seen running around everywhere has been the Thrawn Snoke deck. Obviously, we could still run it with the bitter rivalry plot, as we've discussed last episode, as we were just trying to think of like what FFG would do to balance Snoke, and one of those was giving him a point adjustment and seeing what happened there. So, how many bitter rivalry decks do we think we're going to see this weekend?
I mean, it's definitely going to get tried out a lot. Will we see it this weekend? I don't know about that. People are very, very reactive in this game, and if they think that Thrawn Snoke's dead, then they're going to try something new and not the same but worse. If that makes sense, that's how I feel. I mean, some other people are going to think like, "Well, I've been practicing with this deck. What is 2 damage going to really do?" So I guess we'll
Well,
see.
it's definitely going to be a lot interesting for the opening round because on top of the 2 damage, now your opponent also starts with 6 cards, and instead of your opponent being down like to 4 cards, it'll just be like a normal game for them.
Right.
So there's definitely going to be a lot of like interesting things to see there. Obviously, like little rivalries. You just always put your 2 damage on Thrawn. Like, there's no question there. Like, he's the threat. He's the one that's making all the money. You want to get him off the table as fast as possible.
Yeah, well, one thing I'm gonna say is, if they are gonna run bitter rivalry, obviously you need to put on Thrawn. I know you guys might want to get cute and go on Snoke. I've played the deck a lot, all through nationals, and a lot of people went for Snoke first, and that's the wrong answer. I will just say that.
Yeah,
Even if I
Yeah, I mean,
put whatever on him, like chance cubes, or you just got to go for Thrawn first.
when I played a good bit of this deck in the previous meta, before it was kind of the powerhouse that it is, it was still really strong. But whenever someone went after Snoke, I was just like, all right. I mean, you put up the token defense on him, but getting that hand knowledge with Thrawn is so strong every turn.
Hmm.
So knocking that out of the equation, Snoke's dice are still great, but Thrawn just kind of gives you everything you want in that deck.
and especially in the build that you were piloting, Flaccid, where you would just throw Grand Moff on Thrawn.
Right? Yeah, that's exactly why. Like the Grand Moff. And honestly, like Thrawn's die is better than Snoke's. Other than
And,
the late game with the two indirect is kind of nice, but other than that, the die is just all around better.
and I feel like I'd rather have Thrawn's ability in the late game than Snoke's.
Right? Yeah. I mean, Snoke's ability turns off when Thrawn's dead, so
Yeah,
that's another thing.
you're pretty much just take care of the guy that's doing everything. Snoke is just there enhancing the deck.
Right.
But nah, I mean, it's going to be curious to see. I'm sure. Does this give legs for like the more aggressive decks, do we think? Like, does this make the matchup way easier for like the Yoda Leia deck?
I mean, that matchup was already. I'm already 8-0 in that matchup, so
You're a special case.
No, I'm not. It's such an easy deck. I'm telling you, if you guys want to win your regional, just pilot my deck and just make a shout out to me. Just hit me up like, hey, I played your deck, I got first, and then we'll get you on the podcast. That's all I ask.
And then I'm just gonna tell everyone to play Vader and just roll to win.
I mean, Vader's still like a decent matchup. It's not our best matchup, but it's a decent one.
I think that's the one that gives you like the most trouble.
Yeah, I think that is probably the hardest one, but
I feel like Vader's
you still
probably at least decent against pretty much everything, just because that
Which is
health.
sad.
I mean, yeah, but it's
The
Vader.
health and the ability.
It's
just
Vader.
fat.
I mean, I expected when they make a Vader at this point that he's probably going to be good, and
Wait until we get a Vader that's just like restricted to being in his spaceship. But yeah, no, moving on. And speaking of spaceships, a lot of vehicle cards got hit, mainly like vehicle support in the forms of Sienna Ree and strategic planning.
Thank God.
So let's just go over Sienna Ree first. Her ability now should just read that it's a power action.
Right. Yeah, it should have always been that, but when she was printed, obviously power action wasn't a thing. So people have been able to abuse that as of late. So I'm
But it's
glad
also
that
been like sitting there without having the power action keyword for a very long time.
Right. I guess it's just because of I don't know. I mean, she's gonna rotate soon anyway. It doesn't matter that much, but I think
I think this
I
is
think Sienna decks now that Snoke is a little hurt. That you can't just look at the one deck. You can't just nerf the one deck. You have to balance things. That's why it's called balance of the force, right?
yeah. Thankfully, I'm glad it wasn't just like a hit to just Snoke. They also looked at like some other problem decks that we've seen, and
Yeah,
some just like
I'm really surprised that Yoda didn't get any points. I know as of now he's not an issue, but and even
it's
with a
funny.
point, the Yoda Leia is still a
I'm
thing.
like
So
all the
I
decks that use
don't.
Yoda are still good.
Right? Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I think
hopefully
Yoda's
we see
fine.
another
Like
resurgence of it.
he's not Snoke. Like Snoke can just do stuff without doing anything, as long as the other person does something. But Yoda, at least you have to roll him out.
Right.
Yeah,
That
Yoda
is
was
true.
just like additional value through his like special, but Snoke was like I just have like a +2 on like any die.
Yeah. Yeah. Snoke is ridiculous, and he was the same point cost as Yoda, which is with a better die and with just oh, how'd they print that
We get
card?
it. We get it. Snoke.
I know. I just can't get over it, but now I hopefully can with this point increase.
Maybe we can calm Lassie down about raving about Snoke all the time. But yeah, so back to Scenery. She's now a power action. Of course, this means just no more abuse with certain interactions. On top of that, strategic planning got hit with this should read ready a support that has no mods or exhausta support. This was probably needed greatly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you had decks that were just going off with Shadowcaster in one turn, essentially, that's the exact thing they don't want. Like they don't want that in PE.
Yeah, that's just awful. You just sit back and watch yourself die. Not even slowly, you just die. And it's in one turn, usually maybe two. Like most decks don't finish people off that quick, so it's no interaction at all. It's just all right, you get to kill me for free. And the same thing with there was a mill deck as well. So I'm glad they hit long con and not just like the vehicle
Yeah,
Yep.
version of it.
we'll get
Because
to
long
that in a
con was
second.
obviously the problem.
Yeah, and I just want to finish talking about strategic planning
Yeah,
here.
my bad. I always jump ahead.
I
Just
know. But yeah, like I think this is healthy. Obviously, when strategic planning was created, mods weren't really in mind at the time. Strategic planning was, of course, from the original Awakening set. And back then, just rewriting a vehicle for one die for one was just like, oh, whatever. But obviously now we can have like maximum 4 dice coming out of a ship, which is just paying one to like reset that for no downside was just ridiculous. I'm glad they kind of left alone the exhausta support part because that still gives it counterplay versus mod decks where you could just use it to be like, just tap you.
Yeah, that's a good change too.
A couple of the cards in those one turn kill, one turn mill decks shenanigans that we saw pop up. Obviously, like we didn't see them quite everywhere, but the fact that they existed was kind of a problem, and 2 of the major cards for that deck got hit. So we're going to go over Long Con. Long Con should now read gain 1 resource for each other copy of this event in your discard pile.
It's a good change. I mean, it's still a free resource or 2 free resources.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where back then it was decent, not really played, but now it enables something, and it's going to rotate out soon anyway. So
Well,
never
I mean,
seeing
the
this
big
card
offender
again is
for
still
it.
fine.
Yeah, the big offender was, of course, Double Down, which just was like,
Right,
oh, I can now have a 3rd copy of this card.
right, right.
So that just gave it like that consistency, and of course, with all the draw cards that we've seen, it's been nutty. And speaking of draw, Award Ceremony also got hit, which I feel like has been a long time coming. Of course, this is another card from Awakenings. Notice the majority of these changes are cards that will be rotating out or were printed in the original run. Strategic planning aside, as that's accessible in the 2-player starter and will be with us for a good while. But yeah. So, Award Ceremony should now read spot a red character to draw cards equal to the number of exhausted characters you have. Set that many cards from your hand aside. How do we feel about this change?
Well, I mean, it's obviously necessary. It just kills their draw engine a little bit more. And again, it doesn't affect anything else. Like, it doesn't affect any other deck, and it's not going to affect the future when this rotates out. So it's a really good just for them to just snipe this one card, and doesn't affect anything but these very oppressive, very not fun to play against decks.
Yeah, definitely. It's just it's been nonsense, man. Like some of these changes, I'm so glad we're seeing now. A lot of these changes are on cards that will be rotating, which won't impact the future too much. Again, outside of Snoke, who is just too much value, and I understand people to an extent would probably didn't want to see Snoke get changed. They're just like, oh, it's the meta, just survive till rotation. It's gonna like figure itself out. You don't need to fix Snoke. No, Snoke was a problem. He was way too
He was way
undercosted.
too cheap.
And Snoke survives the rotation too. Like, he's still there. So you got to do something about him now while he's at his peak of oppression, I would
Like we
say.
get there's the whole like cry wolf, but this is like actual like he was so dominant in the previous meta and he's already just like
Right. He was in every deck. If you look at the top 8 of Nats, it was like 7 out of 8 decks had Snoke or something, or maybe even more of that than that. It's just ridiculous.
And I mean, I think some decks can survive Snoke going down to 1 die. I don't know if like Thrawn Snoke vehicles is one of them when you could just run Bitter Rivalry, but like I think Kylo Snoke with Snoke at 1 die could still be fine because you're not. I mean, the focuses are nice, but it isn't kind of wasn't the engine that deck ran on.
I mean, Kylo Snoke, obviously that hasn't popped its head up
Right.
in a
I
long
think we're going to see a
time.
little bit more of it, but yes.
I doubt it. Like that deck was also strong because of Elite Snoke, because while they focused down Kylo, you could just like Holocron Snoke up.
And I mean, I guess now especially too, there are better options like with Wolf going around with Kylo. A price is probably still better, certainly now.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. We also had regionals this past weekend, and obviously there was quite a bit of Thrawn Snoke as always. But what did we all think of that Wolf Kylo deck that popped
I
up?
dig it.
Yeah, I dig it too. I mean, it's interesting. I don't like that people are calling it Thrawn Snoke Killer when it went. And don't get me wrong, this is a good record. It went 8-3 against Thrawn Snoke, but I mean, my deck went 8-0. So why
I
am I
feel
not
like you're
the
just
Thrawn
doing
Snoke
blood
Killer?
filter death
I
cards.
just trying to just pat myself on the back. I don't want this to be called the Thrawn Snoke Killer. I don't like it. I don't. But I mean, we'll see. We got a league going right now. We'll see if I see that deck, and I hope I do, so I can kill it. I'm
So
upset. Like, I
good
have a personal
before.
vendetta against this deck, even though it has nothing to do with me. But no, I do actually really like it. Like, I never would have thought of putting Wolf in a deck. I mean, I've looked at him, and I'm like, I mean, this is a card. It's got focus. It's got a cool effect. Maybe not always useful, but sometimes useful. And I mean, at least you get hand knowledge, right? So I guess it's always useful.
And hand
And
knowledge is huge for
especially
Kylo.
with Kylo, yeah. So actually, wow, I didn't even think of that until right now. I mean, it's a pretty good deck. I'll give it that. It's a good deck. It's spicy. It's new. It's exciting, and it did well against the current quote unquote best deck. So I like it. I dig it. It's good for the game.
I mean,
getting
I
it
dig it
creative
too.
out there.
It still has like the focus power that Snoke provided for Kylo, but on being able to like rip removal, so you can
Yeah,
move
and
safely.
red. I mean, and you add a color, so that's
Yeah, I mean getting probe. Oh
I
man,
really appreciate
yeah.
whenever someone just kind of pulls a deck that we haven't really seen, and like I haven't seen Wolf pop up at all, so it's always fun when
Yeah.
like someone thinks outside the bun and comes up with something fun like that. And I mean, it's good. He's got the focus size. You get probe. You get all the fun red tools, and you get a 2 discard side. So
Yeah, and with that, you mean you can wait till the last minute to activate Kylo, and so you're almost guaranteeing the color. If they have one card in their hand, you know their whole hand. Then you hit them with a probe, or you see their hand of 5. All right, they play a card. I mean, even you might even grab one. You play a probe, you get 2 events. You're like, okay, they have a blue and a red. All right, if they play a card or discard to reroll, I know exactly what the other one's going to be. So you can guarantee Kylos, and I think that's the big thing I didn't like about playing Kylo is if you hit 0 of your or like a low percentage of your Kylos, it's kind of bad. Like you kind of lose those games. But if you can almost guarantee it and hit like a huge percentage of them, that dude does damage. That dude tears through people. So yeah, maybe this is a deck that I need to worry about, and I can't just stop sweeping it under the rug and like it's nothing. It's nothing.
oh man, giving credit back, you're taking away that.
I know, I because this forced me to think about it. I can't just think biasly about myself, like, I can beat him. Come on, but no, this actually, yeah, it's actually a legit deck. Now that I think about it more and
I feel
more.
like the build could use refining. I feel like it was leaned too heavily to probably like deal with Thrawn
Yeah,
Snoke.
yeah, yeah. I don't think the deck list is 100% refined, but the character pairing is definitely very interesting, and there's a lot of potential there. And I might want to explore that now. Now that I think about it.
Uh,
It's getting me like I kind of want to just go right now and start building some stuff.
so here's a question I want to like throw out to you guys. So obviously, like Thrawn got hit, people are gonna do the Biddle rivalries, and what do we feel about a pairing like Snoke Wolf, which gives you points for like armored reinforcement?
it's not terrible. I mean, you could always roll the 2 discard side, Snoke it to 4. Like that's always rough.
They both still have the same
Oh
amount of
man,
focus sides. You're just really losing out on the resource.
still get Grand Moff.
Yeah, still get
No,
Grand
I
I'm
mean,
just
Moff.
kidding.
I
I'm
think
kidding. That wouldn't
if
work.
you're gonna play armored reinforcement,
No,
then yes. If you're not going vehicles with that, I think Tarkin's a better option because you can do a lot of damage with his power action.
yeah.
Man, what happened to Tarkin?
Thrawn happened to Tarkin.
What happened to all our cool villain
Snoke happened.
characters? Or
Snoke
should we
happened to
dive
all
into
of them.
that? Like, do we actually think we're gonna
I
see
do.
variety?
Yeah.
Yeah, this opens up people to be a lot more creative and not have to like, all right, I need to run Snoke, or it's just my deck's not going to be as strong as these other ones out here. So
I think Bitter Rivalry.
maybe we'll see the resurgence of
I
that
think Bitter
Tarkin.
Rivalry, while it still makes Thrawn Snoke playable, I think a lot of people are weary to run that because I think it kind of puts you behind the damage curve early.
Yeah, and if you're facing down like an aggressive deck
Two damage
that
could
can like
be
punch Thrawn, like
a big difference. A 6 card could be a big
Yeah.
difference.
I'd like to see like a bitter rivalry, like Blue Hero deck versus bitter rivalry Thrawn Snoke, and have Steadfast in opening hand.
I love Steadfast with Bitter Rivalry with Hero. It's just so mean.
I would just love to see that happen. To like, if you win the roll off and you just go first, and you're like, oh, Snoke has 4
Yeah.
damage on him. That would be the weirdest matchup, though. Both players start with 6 cards. I don't know. That's gonna be interesting in mirrors too, right? Like both players will start with like their effective 6, and man, I feel like this change really was just like, how can we get our players who want to keep playing Thrawn Snoke? Let's just force them to play bitter rivalries. How do we get the community to play this card?
Because I mean, really, the big change. I think you said it earlier in the Discord. Is that the big change is now you can play that deck, but it's basically the errata just reads you lose 2 health at the beginning of the game and your opponent draws a card. Like,
hmm Yeah, I actually, the more we talk about it, I like that they put it only to 1 point because it doesn't. I hate when they nerf cards into the ground unless it's necessarily like long con, kinda. I mean, but whenever it's an actual character that we're gonna keep playing with, and he is fun to play with, and I just like how it's not
We
completely
know that
out.
Thrawn's your boy.
Yeah, Thrawn Snoke, me and them got some history, so I don't want to see my boy in the dumpster, but
Did lose to Luke Ray that rolled way too hot.
we don't have to talk about that.
I just want to just throw out the hope to players out there that maybe Blue Hero can do something, especially with Thrawn being at like -2
Yeah,
health.
I mean, I like the +1 also
Yeah.
because Thrawn Snoke's not a completely unbeatable deck. It's just one of those decks. It's kind of like R2P2, where it doesn't really, yeah,
It's just
it doesn't have
oppressive.
bad matchups. Like it doesn't run over
Mhm.
everything, but it also doesn't really have any bad matchups. So, well, I mean, Leia and Yoda is kind of the bad matchup for it, but even that, it's still not completely terrible. It just you're not favored, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the whole community is buzzing now. How do you like regionals? The fact that this is effective immediately, and we're gonna see like this weekend's regionals will probably be a good
I am
way to measure if people are being safe about playing Thrawn Snoke, or if people are gonna go in, see if people craft up
I really
something
think
new.
we're still going to just see a lot of Thrawn Snoke. I don't know if it's going to be good because of that. We'll see what that 2 health and the card, what effect that has on it. But I
I mean, I feel like slower decks
yeah,
will still struggle, even with that like +2 damage advantage, because that deck just like the longer it survives, the harder it is to take down.
yeah. And I mean, control decks can only remove so many dice from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see it still. Because like I said, those people are just gonna have so many reps, and they're like, "This is the only deck I'm comfortable with." And they might even, they have a whole week. They can test out a little bit, but a lot of people don't have TTS or don't use TTS to test, so they only have their like one day of their locals. And if they brew something up or they take a deck from DB and they're like, "All right, I'm gonna go to my locals, see how this does," and then they scrub out and they're like, well, maybe I should just play Thrawn Snoke. Or even if they go to their locals with the bitter rivalry Thrawn Snoke and they just destroy people still because it's good matchups all night and they're rolling hot and then they're like, yeah, I'm taking this, let's go. So it can go either way. Either they have bad tests with other decks or they have good tests with bitter rivalry. I think people have that like bias, like they think like, oh, after 3 games I know what a deck's going to do, when
Yeah,
I mean,
it
that's a
takes a
pretty small
considerable
sample
amount more
size.
than that. I think for most decks.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that this dropped on a Monday.
Right. Yeah. It gives people some time. That's what I'm saying.
Imagine if this came in the middle of the week and it's
Right.
like it's
Or like
effective
Friday.
immediately. Oh my god, people would flip out.
Yeah. So I'm glad I did it too.
Man, I wonder if that's why they held off. It was just like, hey, we could have released it on a Friday, but
Yeah. I mean, release it on Friday, say it's active Monday or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, more people time to stew over it.
Either way,
Watch,
it's out now. So,
it's out. We're happy. Of course, there's some rules clarifications here and there, or like mods, vehicles that's been clarified completely that this isn't considered an upgrade restriction, so you can't do grievous shenanigans to play mods on him. And they are limited to 3 only. So it's just you just treat it like an upgrade for a vehicle or for any type that a mod would modify. And other than that, it's just like some cleaning up in the rules reference. We're not going to go over all of that. If you guys want to check it out, of course, you can check out the rules document yourselves. We just wanted to cover these big changes and get this news out to you as soon as possible. Give your guys our insights. Anything else you guys want
I'm
to
I'm
pitch in
excited
there?
for next week's podcast because I really really want to see what happens this weekend.
Next weekend. Yeah, next week is going to be spicy. I really am
I also
curious to
want to
see what
throw out that I'm
happens.
happy all these things happen before the first regional I can go to. So I'm not going to a Wild Wild West regional, and I have a little bit of knowledge about what might happen.
Just keep repping
Yeah,
that Luke Fisto, man.
I don't know. It depends on how well I do at the first regional, depending on what I'm going to bring to my other one.
definitely. Of course, Flaccid got his regional out of the way.
Yeah, I got
This
to.
one. I still have to wait.
Oh man.
And it's one of the bigger regionals that we have. Man, San Diego is going to be a bloodbath.
Because I'm fully committed to going all out crazy. If I happen to win the first one I go to, I'll run something completely dumb at the second one. I was planning it last year, but life happened and I couldn't make the second regional. So
Life does happen. No statement can be truer. But that's about gonna take us out for this evening. I just want to say thank you for Flaccid joining us here.
You're welcome.
yeah,
And of course,
happy
Zero
to be
Hour.
here. I'm gonna go headbutt heaven or whatever random deck names we got.
No. We don't talk
Can we not
about
talk
that
about
nonsense
Keyforge?
here. Yeah, he's gonna have to edit that out.
Oh no.
We were safe and you had to ruin it. Of course, as always, guys, please join us on our Discord where you can find a lot of active talk going on currently about all these changes. It's a lot of fun times going on in there. This is Hexen with the Artificery Crew signing out.
Looking to get the leg up at your next Star Wars Destiny event? Join the Artificery Patreon and get early access to our strategy and deck tech articles, exclusive Discord chat channels, training and playtesting with the Artificery Crew, and unique gifts like tokens and playmats that take your Star Wars Destiny experience to the next level. Join the Artificery Patreon at patreon.com/the Artificery Crew.